Hello and welcome to QTV and welcome to the Week in Review with me, your host Ade Darami, and friend and colleague Mahmoud Mboj. Mr. Mboj, welcome to the program as always.
Another week. Cheers to be here.
Indeed. And for those of you who've finished your Lenten fasting, you'll be pleased to know that we also have a full menu on this Easter Sunday. And what's on the menu? Well, the show is called The Week in Review because we review big stories that we've decided are a bit interesting and could do with some discussion. So we've got the PRU shooting case. There've been twists and turns, acquittal, arrest, re-arrest, and so on. Also, His Excellency the President, he appears a couple of times on this, handing over what officials are claiming are the largest ever handover of farming equipment in this country. Also, there's a new inaugural flight from Italy to the Gambia, something to look forward to. And as I mentioned, His Excellency the President also talked about the feeder roads and the impact he expects that these new feeder roads, which he's been going around inspecting on a sort of mini tour, and he's been saying why he's doing it and the impact he expects these roads to make. Also, from a society called the Gambia Autism Support and Advocacy Network, GASAN, they've been trying to raise awareness of autism and ask for support. And one of the big talking points of the week and the last few weeks, the Minister for Basic and Secondary Education has been talking about what one of my colleagues said was an attempt to bring sanity to schools, and it was around this whole thing about should they host graduations or not, and it went wider than that. And also Gambia appeared at the World Trade Organization kind of mini summit in Yaoundé in Cameroon, and they got quite a lot of plaudits. And also Gambian former Interior Minister Osman Sonko, his trial is still on, going on in Bellinzona in Switzerland, and he appealed 20-year sentence. So we'll delve into that. So these are some, not all, of the stories that we've got on tonight's show. So let's get things up and running, shall we? The first one I mentioned is the first one we're going to deal with, the PRU shooting case. There was a trial, there was an acquittal, and then it all got rather messy. Have a look, have a listen.
News had come through that Usainu Bojang, the man accused of the shooting, and his sister Ami Bojang, accused of helping him escape, had been rearrested following their acquittal and despite meeting the bail conditions. The pair were seen being rearrested, taken to police headquarters in Banjul, and later to Mile 2 Central Prison.
Justice for Usainu! Justice for Usainu!
The Attorney General's office issued a press release setting out why the state had decided to appeal the verdict, stating in essence that it disagreed with how Justice Jete had assessed the state's evidence in arriving at a verdict. The press release also appealed to the public to allow the appeals process to proceed.
So they appealed to the public to allow the appeals process to proceed, but somebody who wasn't listening obviously was His Excellency the President, because he's actually gone so far as to make a statement saying that he not only disagrees, he approves of the appeal, and he's still convinced that they had in fact arrested the right man. Mr. Mboj, where to start on this one? Shall we start with first the acquittal and then the re-arrest?
Absolutely, and then what our reporter there, Jacqueline, said, appealing to all of us to wait for the appeal process. I wonder, why didn't they show that?
Yeah.
By re-arresting him, you were not waiting for the appeal process, and we all knew that you were going to appeal the case.
Indeed.
They could have set the example for others to follow.
Indeed.
So this is it, I think. I'll focus first on this particular release, the arrest and the release.
Sure.
Certainly I got a sense of déjà vu. Government takes a position.
As did I.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we go out, some of us at least, to protest the decision,
Sure.
and then they revise it.
Yeah. Sure.
What is going on there? It was just unbelievable. We sat here thinking about it just day after.
Yeah.
That's pure from Yahya Jammeh's playbook.
Yep.
That's like a Yahya Jammeh era reflex,
Yes,
authorities reflex and stuff. The real problem here really is with the ruling of Justice Jete.
Sure.
that wasn't simply an acquittal,
no, of course.
wasn't it? It was sort of a scathing, withering indictment of the whole prosecution team that seemed not to know the basics of criminal investigation.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. Instead of dealing with that,
yeah,
we're sort of blaming him, as it were, and his sister for the outcome.
Well, this is it, because it's highly emotive and emotional matter. 2 people lost their lives, and that, we've always said, should never get lost in the debate. But as you rightly say, in his quite prolonged summing up before he gave his judgment, Justice Jaite, I refer to it as a complete dismantling of the state's case. And when your case has been so thoroughly dismantled, to then issue a press release saying that he didn't know how to interpret the evidence, he did, and he said so. He said, based on the evidence you presented in front of me, you signally failed to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that this was the person. What else did he have to go on?
Absolutely. This is how court works. It's all about the evidence. And in this case, to be proven beyond reasonable doubt. That is why in the judgment, you never hear the judge saying that you've been proved innocent, only not guilty.
That's it.
That's
it.
right.
That's
We
right.
do not know the innocence. That's really a different question
yeah,
in many ways, the way law works.
That's right.
What evidence has been presented here, and did it meet the required standards of guilt or innocence?
There's a certain threshold. And it failed to meet that.
It failed to meet that. So there will be a question there. And recently, wasn't it in February, Abdullah Sanyang, that high-profile case again, acquitted by the same judge.
As you said.
And we know that the DPP ultimately decides.
Director of Public Prosecutions, for anybody who doesn't
know.
Absolutely.
Ultimately decides, even though, and it's got some autonomy, I understand, but still it's under the control of the Ministry of Justice.
Yep.
And I understand that there must be an evidentiary threshold. Certain things will determine whether you will take this case to court or not. You want to tell me that he missed all these gaps?
Yeah, I mean, just
I don't get it.
To kind of help with that, when I worked in what was called a court support section in the Ministry of Business in the UK, if we were preparing a case to arrest or dismiss somebody who was a director of a company that we felt had been fraudulent, our threshold was between 65 to 70% chance of acquittal. We had to of conviction.
Of conviction.
I beg your pardon. Of conviction. That's what we had to take to our lawyers and to the minister to say, we think we've got this. Right. So, as you rightly say, did they look at it based on what evidence they had?
The legal merit.
And so on, and say, oh yeah, we've got this percentage chance of, because nothing is guaranteed. That's why you go through the process of trial. You don't just arrest and convict. You go through trial, you prove your case, and if the person, if you do prove your case, because he doesn't have to prove he's innocent. You arrested him, you charged him, you have to prove that he's guilty. And that was signally failed to be done. And then, as we rightly say, whilst they had been, once they'd been rearrested, then Gala and others then said, you know, let's go and protest, because we think that we're kind of slowly creeping back to the bad old days when, as you rightly say, they'd made their intention plain in court that they intended to appeal. Well, you know, appeal. Was he a flight risk? Is that why you wanted him rearrested? You know, so, and even that, you know, and the judge has said, you know, I'll set the bail, and if they meet the bail conditions, should be released. They met the bail conditions and they're still not released.
Absolutely. With these things, you can agree or disagree no matter what, but it's got a process. It's a process. So that's what you must follow. Yes, the president can say that he disagrees. Everybody in government will say that they disagree with the judgment of Justice.
In fact, it would have been unusual if the president had come out and said, I agree with the judgment, because that would have...
It's your right to be that. But it doesn't end there. Then you take your case to the court. The court decides. You just don't decide because I disagree, therefore we're going to do this. With the PRU, who sanctioned the arrest? And we have to narrow it down for the sake of accountability.
Absolutely.
Was there political pressure? From where? Who sanctioned the arrest? What was the reasoning behind it? We need to know that. But you see, the way we criticize, we keep saying, oh, the government's done this, the government's done that. So individuals are lost within it.
That's right.
So we must target really our criticism, our questions directed at people. The Attorney General's chambers, they've got something to answer. You're losing these high-profile cases, and it seems as if you're not organizing well. You're not really presenting your case well. There's something going on there.
Because that's what has come through the courts, that you didn't present your case
at all. And the police, who sanctioned that? Because they're also supposed to be really independent operationally.
Indeed.
You know, given our rules, should we arrest? Or if a minister calls you, then you do so. Was there political pressure? Do we know? And perhaps the broader issue, maybe this combination of Attorney General, which is really a technocratic position,
and
Minister of Justice.
There needs to be a separation.
Would it mean that perhaps sometimes there's more political pressure to why we take cases to court rather than legal merit? Should we even ask questions like that?
Well, this is it, and I think that's where we are at the moment. We could spend all program on this. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Roach. Story number 2, I mentioned the president in passing there and the comments that he had made. In the meantime, he's been around the country on a kind of mini tour. He's been inspecting mainly feeder roads, but there's not just any feeder roads. These are feeder roads linked to agricultural communities and some of the difficulties they've been getting their stuff to market. But also, it's about cultivation and changing farming in this country. Have a look, have a listen, and we'll delve into it.
In a move aimed at boosting agricultural productivity and ensuring food self-sufficiency, President Barrow handed over a range of modern farming equipment to beneficiaries under the Giraffe project. The consignment, described by officials as the largest ever delivered in the country, falls under Component 2 of the project and complements the ongoing feeder roads development projects which the President has been inspecting in this mini tour. A significant percentage of the country's working population is engaged in agriculture, and until now, much of it has been labor-intensive, contributing to the struggle towards attaining food self-sufficiency. The equipment, which includes mini combine harvesters, power tillers, lice tracers, maize sellers, and milling machines, is expected to ease the burden on farmers and improve efficiency across the agricultural value chain.
At the core of our development agenda is the transformation of agriculture from subsistence-based production to a modern, resilient, and commercially viable sector capable of feeding our nation and driving economic growth.
A couple of months ago, we distributed the combine harvesters. These ones are mini combine. There are 20 of them. But those we distributed a few months ago were like 14 combine harvesters. We now understand that one of the beneficiaries has generated $800,000 from just one combine harvester.
He further explained that beneficiaries were identified through a grassroots-driven process involving extension workers across the country.
These farmers will be supervised, they will be coached, they will be trained on how to run this equipment.
You know me, dear viewers, I left that last bit in deliberately because I know you'll all be asking that question. Shiny new equipment, how to run it, how to maintain it. Mr. Mboj, never mind farming, you name it. When it comes to maintenance, we keep embarrassing ourselves with a lack of maintenance culture. And so I was delighted to hear, and I deliberately, as I said, left that last bit in, where we're talking about they'll be trained and there'll be people who will be helping them maintain this equipment.
And a proper management in the long term. You know, in the short term, I mean, God, we had a period when Jamie brought in tractors.
I was going to say that,
but
actually.
That's it. It didn't really, in the end, the impact it should have had.
That's it.
It didn't, because you need other things to go right, as it were, for this input to really yield what it should. Yes, the challenge is transitioning from subsistence to market-oriented. Market-oriented models. We understand that they've procured 400 pieces of equipment.
I was going to read the list, but we've been here all night. It was quite an impressive, in fact, I printed it and I've just realized I left it on my desk upstairs. But yes, quite an impressive list of equipment, yes.
That's it. So, what would be the indicators to show that whatever we're doing, we are transitioning from subsistence to market-based, as it were, models. So that would mean, wouldn't it, one of them at least, that I sell more than I consume.
Sure. And the minister, I deliberately had the piece in there where he mentioned this one person making 800,000.
Absolutely.
That's not a scientific thing.
No, yeah.
Because you need to scale that up quantum really for it to be impactful. Yes, one person could do that, but is that something that can be replicated? And we're not even sure what the kind of produce was that this person was involved in. But you're right. I mean,
statistically, we need that picture.
Yeah.
So I went around looking for it.
As you do.
Yes, the different levers really you need to transition.
Yeah, quite.
One of them is really the market lever, isn't it? So I understand that in 2023, because this program has been going on for a while, hasn't it? The full name is just the Giraffe, the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agricultural Value Chain Development Program. That sort of thing. It's been going on for a while. So I understand that in 2023, there was a 25% increase in marketed output, exceeding the initial 20% target, according to reports that I did there. And then we'll have a second lever, wouldn't we? The SMEs. The value chains. That's really how you do that. There, well, I understand that we've spent $11.1 million. Really dispersed, it's a matching grant scheme.
That's right.
Dispersed to 403 agribusinesses, including 19 SMEs and 74 groups. So that bit is going on. So now, isn't it, the point now would be the efficiency. In the end, the efficiency and then the scale.
Well, this is it, because part of what has been talked about, and the reason why the agriculture minister is accompanying the president on this, what I keep referring to as a mini tour, is that they've said that as well as the feeder roads connecting these communities to their market, the market also, they seem to have thought of this kind of in a kind of wider scheme, that what about storage? To stop wastage, to stop, throwing away and so on. So they've talked about, things like, freezers and what, refrigeration and so on. So it's been quite, it's been, there's a kind of connectivity.
Absolutely.
In the whole project,
Yes, you need this sort of economic corridor
sure.
with these feed routes. And we also understand that they've got what they call agro-logistics centers.
Right.
That's for the storage and all the rest of it, which is quite important. We've opened recently, I think, in Wasu and Farafenni.
That's right, yes.
That's it.
So we've covered that.
We've covered that.
Yes.
So this is it. All these key aspects, elements, important pillars, as it were, being put in place, isn't it? Yeah. So how do we manage it to make a huge difference? I even understand that when it comes to the efficiency lever I was talking about, the yields, well, according to this report, the project reported a 420% increase, as it were, in yield for targeted communities.
Right.
That's it. In 2023, vastly outperforming the 50% target. So from the reports that I'm getting, there are improvements being done.
Sure.
That's it. But we know that in the end, the sustainability would be one aspect. The scale, as it were, another aspect.
That's right.
So
because when they talk about targeted communities, one of the reasons why we've gone around with them is that they're sort of essentially doing pilot projects in some. So if that pilot can be replicated, then we can start talking about, yes, we've achieved what.
That's exactly it. So what we tend to get is just once we begin a project and we begin to see positive yields, then we go on overpitch, oversell it. Politicians, as they tend to do. So then, but when you do that, you raise expectations.
Indeed.
You're making it very difficult for yourself in many ways in the longer term. So this is really what the issue is. But if we can just sort of scale our eyes, use our eyes to fit, as it were, what we can see. Yes, we're making modest. Granted, we're making modest improvements, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, sure. So we keep hoping, and one day we might be able to say those magic words, food security.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. Story number 3, very, very different. If you want to come to the Gambia from various parts of Europe, you have to go from this country to that country. An airline called NEOS is trying to fix so that we can have a bit more connectivity with certain parts of Europe, including Italy. And the inaugural flight was this week. What do you mean you don't believe me? Have a look, have a listen.
The 189-seat Boeing 737 of the Italian carrier has launched a weekly service linking Rome, Dakar and Banjul in partnership with Gambia International Airlines. aiming to strengthen air connectivity between West Africa and Europe.
We are happy to be chosen by NEOS to be their ground handler at the Gambia International Airport. NEO present in the Gambia will bridge gaps connecting Banjul and Italy, and also fostering stronger ties in tourism and business.
CEO of Air Rep Services, Musa and Omar Sise.
This is another addition to make our airport as busy as we could. Our objective is to make Banjul International Airport one in the sub-region, and we will not be tired of doing that.
And I wish NEOS all the best of luck, and we wish to see more than one flight a week to the Gambia from NEOS.
We wish to see more than one flight a week, not just them, not just for the tourism industry, but also if there's more than one flight, of course, it can create more jobs because when there's a kind of high tourist season and then the low tourist season, then, there's a kind of, I know of people who, when it's not the tourist season, they're laid off completely until the tourist season. But because this is weekly, then of course you expect people will be, more people will be employed.
Absolutely. As I understand it from the GT board, they want 51, the target is 25, 20, 26, 51 weekly flights.
That's right.
As it were.
Right.
So every single one counts. We put them together that way. Because the Italian market for us is really very small.
It's tiny.
In many ways. I've seen that in 2023, they've sent only less than 1,300.
Right. Yeah.
As it were.
Is, yeah.
But let's go to 2022, 1,050.
Right.
Let's go to 2021, 691.
Yeah.
So it appears to be going up, isn't it?
Indeed.
So
it started from low.
It's starting from low, and it's been going up. So you just never know, as it were, what it can do. But my worry is that it's what, Italy to Banjul via Dakar.
And that's right. Yes.
Would most of them go?
we go to Dakar rather.
So that's it. Just depends on what would we get. But they all count.
Yeah. How do we sell ourselves as a kind of all year round destination?
A kind of all year destination. That's been our problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is talk of the eco-lodge bit so far.
Yeah. I mean, some of the countries that do sell themselves as, it's not just, and I keep saying this, in Gambia we keep referring to the sun, sea and sand and the smiling coast thing, as if that is enough. These other countries have that. But other countries have things like 3 or 4 huge international music festivals that have internationally recognized artists that are world-renowned. They come to these places, I won't name, and that's 3 or 4 of those a year. The Creole Jazz Festival, the Bahia das Casas Festival, and they bring huge numbers, and we need something like that if we want that kind of upsurge, and it just, I don't see it happening yet.
I see. That's like a brand. Isn't that what they call a brand, really, what you are associated with, this sort of things. Yeah. For us, the SSS, and that's really our brand. No wonder still the dominant group that comes to this country is really the Brits.
It's the Brits, yeah.
Absolutely, and then after you'll get the Dutch.
That's right.
Now I'm not even seeing the Scandinavians. There was a time possibly not enough, not in the same numbers. So that sort of thing. Even the Germans, we have more Germans than we have Italians, as it were.
And one of the things that happened recently when the British newspapers carried a couple of stories of British tourists falling very ill in Cape Verde, the minister contacted the Daily Telegraph, and they gave him a whole page to rebut all of these. And he said, one of the reasons I'm writing this is because, we get, last year they had up to 1.4 million. He said, and 400,000 of those visitors were Brits. He said, so, this means something to us. That's more than we get in totality. And just from Britain they get that. And, we have that connection with Britain, and yet we're not getting those numbers. Why are we not getting those numbers? And we need to look at it. I remember I circulated the article, and I thought that was very proactive. He kind of wanted to nip it in the bud and say, look, 2 people falling sick out of 1.4 million. It's not a newspaper story, so why do you carry it as a headline?
So the media war.
The media thing,
Absolutely. And we know that there was a time when Cape Verde, they used to send officials over here
to
learn about tourism.
That's it.
Along the way, we didn't keep pace.
Yeah, with changing
with
times.
Changes, as it were, we didn't. But again, we went through a period in our political history when we really couldn't focus on what was significant, as it were. We were distracted completely, so we couldn't focus on that. So when we regained, as it were, our voice, as it were, our strength in 2017, now how do you reorient?
We're playing catch up.
Yeah, it's easier to destroy than to construct. This is going to be a very, very difficult thing. When we call it transition, it gives the impression of a short period, then you move on to something else, not realizing that so much of the old joins in that, and it takes maybe another generation or more to really transform yourself. So this is it, but not too bad. 2025, we had over 230,000, 233,000 according to one report. 3% up from 2024. Sure. That's as long as you're going up, you're improving. Just don't dive.
Don't go slow. Thank you for that. So we wish them well, and who knows, I might even I've been to Italy a few times, quite love the country, so I might take a flight there. But thank you for that, Mr. Mboch. Story number 4, back with His Excellency the President, and the one we've mentioned already. So we kind of dealt with this one about the feeder roads and why they're important. And so, as I said, he's been going around on a mini tour. It's kind of mini Meet the People tour. It's kind of closer to Meet the Farmers one, this one. And here's some of what's gone down. Have a look, have a listen.
President Barrow is on a 6-day tour to lay the foundation stones for the construction of over 200 kilometers of feeder roads under the Gambia Inclusive and Resilient Agricultural Value Chain Development Project, GIRAV, funded by the World Bank at a total cost of $25.5 million. The initiative is aimed at boosting agricultural productivity, improving rural connectivity, and linking farming communities to markets and essential services.
Our unwavering commitment to building a resilient, inclusive, and economically vibrant Gambia, as articulated in our National Development Plan, and reinforced under the Green Recovery Focused Development Agenda. Agriculture remains the backbone of our economy and the primary source of livelihood for majority of our population. Yet, for far too long, our farmers have faced significant challenges in transporting their produce to markets.
It sounds almost like an election campaign thing there to quite a significant community, the farming community in Mr. And as I said, we've kind of mentioned this already because what he said, the reason I wanted to bring this was the statement he made about these roads will reduce inequality. That was kind of like the headline thing of what he said, and he's kind of explained some of it there, as we heard in that last clip.
Absolutely. This was going to be the logistics lever, but we left it because this is really where we should talk about it.
Yeah, quite.
Exactly. Imagine if I do not have physically, as it were, the infrastructure, the roads to get to the market, then what's the point? So this is the key. When he said there, our president, that agriculture being the backbone of our economy, I said yes, but then it should have contributed more than just 25% to our GDP.
Yeah, quite.
You know, when you average, for instance, Jora's period, 33-34% of our GDP, something like that, from agriculture. Well, so how do we reach that? I think that is really very important.
And also, the argument I've been having with Ugandans is that, according to a recent survey, 24 to 30% of our GDP comes from remittances. So you're having remittances ranking with or even out.
Can you imagine?
Classing
no,
agriculture.
You cannot have
so
that.
you can't say that agriculture is the backbone when the statistics don't show that. It's slightly different. But, you know, as you rightly say, this is the meat of it, isn't it? That these roads, and again, I can't even believe that I've been having these discussions with people saying you can't eat roads. Why is he going around building roads? It's like that doesn't even need to be explained, and yet it does. You know, and you said, you know, about connectivity.
Silly, really.
It really is. It really is. And you talk about connectivity, about not being able to get your produce, you know, somewhere quickly and efficiently because the roads are bad. When you can, you know, then we know it can make a difference.
Absolutely. And here, when we say that it is silly, what means is this. Of course, you need people to be able to afford basic commodities to eat, but I also need roads, as it were. So I just cannot blame one for the other, as it were. This conflation, as it were, in the way that they do, I think that's the silly bit about it. But everybody knows that, of course, you need to, standard of living must go up, inflation down. People should be able to afford that. It's just the kind of conflation that they want to bring, as if that one is blaming one for the other, or they want us to prioritize this and ignore that one. Then this one wouldn't go.
It won't go.
It doesn't work like that. So this is the thing. Yes, the feeder roads, very much part of it, but just one lever. There are many levers that would lift this whole thing.
Because it's all going towards a particular aim. It's not just feeder roads for the sake of feeder roads. We hope there's kind of joined up thinking about why all of this is being done and how it all needs to come together with all different, as you said,
every aspect. That's it. Exactly. The efficiency, the SMEs that would turn value add, so the value addition. So there are so many different pillars, as it were, that can really help lift, as it were, whatever you want to lift up. You want to make a shift, a transition. These are the things will happen from subsistence to market-oriented model.
Sure. This is what. Thank you very much. And so story number 5, which will take us to a break. And autism, kind of misunderstood in, I was going to say developed, just kind of say, let me say enlightened societies. They have come to view autism quite differently and treat people with autism quite differently to what avails in much of the rest of Africa, including the Gambia. Have a look, have a listen as to what some people are trying to change.
Despite its prevalence, autism remains widely misunderstood, particularly in many African communities, including the Gambia, where awareness is still limited.
We gather under the theme, Autism and Humanity, Every Life Has a Value. This is more than a theme, it is a call to action. A call for us to examine how inclusive our society truly is and whether we are genuinely creating space for everyone to thrive.
To work on just creating, as they mentioned, just safe spaces. That's the key word. Safe space for that child to express themselves. Any child, whether it's a neurotypical or neurodivergent.
Over the past year, we have moved beyond conversation into tangible impact. We are proud to highlight that our work has reached various corners of our communities. National mobilization. Last October, we saw hundreds of Gambians join our stride for the spectrum, which is work for the autism. This wasn't just an event, it was a visible declaration of our children should no longer be hidden.
Our children should no longer be hidden. In the lead up to that, I was talking about the kind of misunderstanding and superstition that tends to kind of accompany this when people have, autistic children. I have a first cousin who born in the 1970s. And you can imagine how lack of understanding and how, people said that the family had been cursed and so on. And it was quite difficult to kind of, at one point my mother wanted to take him in and kind of have him grow up with us. But in the end, he stayed with his own mother. But, it pains me when I recall what he went through and what the family went through, really.
Yes, I think in many ways, we are still what I call a kind of hybrid society. You have the traditional, conventional elements, but you also have the scientific worldview. We combine all of these things. So you can see the shortcomings. There are certain phenomena, people still look at them through the lens of tradition and convention and all of that. But we also have the scientific view available to us.
Indeed.
We cannot say that it's not ours, it is part of ours. That's the way. That's it. So we've got that available to us, but the systems in place, the expertise in place, there's so much that we do not have in place. So this is it. How do you counter this? Perhaps if we had certain systems in place, as it were, in training, then it will be easier to confront traditional views.
That's right.
As it were. But there's really nothing consolidated, nothing solid confronting that view You know what I mean? There's none. So now what do we have? It's really NGOs.
Yes, indeed.
There's organizations,
yeah, quite.
really, that are really creating the awareness, trying to do what they can do. Sure. But from the state level, well, there's a new mental health bill, isn't it? 2025 and stuff like that. That's so this neurodivergent she mentioned there.
That's right.
You see, when you hear neurodivergent, is it an illness? No, it is not.
It's not.
It's just a different way of brain function.
Yeah, quite indeed.
That's really what it is. It's nothing like that at all. But that's it. That scientific deficit in the worldview, that is the enemy.
That is the enemy and one to be defeated. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. That takes us to the break, and after the break, we will have 5 more stories. So join us after this break. I warn you, don't go away or you'll miss out. Hello and welcome, or in some cases, welcome back. Certainly, welcome back if you were with us in the first half of the show. I'm Adi Darami, this is The Week in Review, and this is QTV, in case you're wondering where have I strayed. And across the table from me is Mr. Mboj. Mr. Mboj, thank you for your interjections thus far.
Cheers,
much appreciated. And so we'll kick on with story number 6. Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, popularly known as MOBSE. They put out a press release that created quite a furore. And we thought, let's get the minister, one that both Mr. Mboj and I highly respect. Let's get her into our studios and have a chat with her to explain some of what is behind the thinking led to this press release. And here's some of what she had to say.
We believe that innovations and works we do should be able to add value. And so we will continue to celebrate achievements of our students, and we can do them in very moderate ways.
Parallel to the graduation ban, MOBSE moved in February 2026 to ban inter-house sporting activities from public parks and independent stadiums, and instead required for these events to be held strictly within school premises. The aim is to ensure that school administrations are able to maintain direct supervision over student safety. When asked about school sports,
I think when we said that, we realized that in fact the facilities are available within the schools, because no school came out complaining that they couldn't have their inter-house due to lack of facilities.
Dr. Drame also addressed a directive banning students from all institutions, including conventional schools and madrasas, from soliciting funds in public, especially while in uniform, to protect them from potential exploitation, abuse, and criminal activity.
What we are saying is if a madrasa feels or thinks that they need donations, they can do it at the level of the school. We don't want these children to be used. That is what we have stopped, and we know that the madrasas have complied. Any school authority that does not comply risk very stringent penalties. And we are happy since these press statements started, we have not seen lack of compliance.
Minister Drame emphasized that these reforms aim to create safer, morally grounded and financially manageable school environments.
And she could have said aim to create sanity because the one that has grabbed most of the headlines, because I wanted people to see that there are kind of multifaceted things to what seems to be quite a thought out process, Mr. Mboj. The one that has grabbed the headlines, needless to say, has been about the ban on these ridiculous graduations for nursery school children. And I say sanity with a kind of pause, because when I shared this in a Sierra Leone group, I was quite astonished at the number of people who said that tell the Ministry of Basic and State to go to hell. None of their business. I was quite astonished, and I was there now trying to defend the position, but I think you and I are probably on the same page pretty much on this one as to these things. A graduation is not for nursery schools and primary schools, really.
It is very much really within her remit to decide these things. I think the idea of kids, pupils in early childhood development and lower basic, oh, come on. Graduation.
We regularly get letters, by the way, from schools saying we have a graduation ceremony for nursery schools. Can you cover it?
A marketing assistant invented these ceremonies. It had to be a marketing assistant, not even a marketing manager. And on that day, possibly the marketing manager was sort of feeling drowsy, wasn't
and a bit bored.
He was a bit bored and just said, come on, let's go for it. Because it appears that it's more about social display
quite.
than academic achievement.
Really,
We had speech days, that's what we used to call it for short, but speech and prize giving day, as it were, that's all we called it. So this is it. Because graduation then meant that you had to go to university, your first degree.
Yeah, that's right.
So everybody was aspirational.
Indeed.
But now it seems they've cheapened it.
Yeah.
It's like a currency. It's all over the place. It has no value anymore. And now how do you make them sort of aspirational for that going to university? Now anybody, you talk about graduation, the person will tell you, oh, come on, I've been graduating since I was in early childhood development class. So that sort of thing. Let's restore sanity. What's wrong with speech day? And then make our kids more aspirational to go to university. It doesn't matter what you do. Even if I'm going to be a carpenter, you'll be surprised how your university education will make you do carpentry differently.
So bravo to the ministry there. Before the producer starts telling us to get a move on, we'll move on to story number 7. The International Trade Center and some of their partners decided to honor International Women's Month, which is just ended in March. And one of the things they did was they launched something called Her Marketplace. That's a kind of giveaway. What's that all about? Have a look, have a listen.
At the heart of the event is the promotion of women's economic independence through the Her Marketplace platform, which provides a dedicated space for women entrepreneurs to showcase their products and connect with a wider market.
As part of the Women Enterprise Fund of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare, we have the Women's app. And as we are speaking, we are rolling out the app. From the Women's app, even if the woman is cooking in her kitchen, she can get information about women. There are so many features on health, on gender-based violence, on education, on the lumos, and how women can network and partner with each other in business. At the moment, the app is in 3 languages, English, Wolof, and Mandinka. We are going to blow it up to cover all the languages in the Gambia, and every sector will have a stake in it.
Every woman, regardless of where she lives or what she owns, can stand before the law and say that this is mine and I claim it. That is the Gambia flag intends to build, and we will not stop until it is real.
Since I've been at QTV and since I've been in the Gambia covering events, almost every week we will have one that is to do with empowering, trying to empower women in different ways, either politically. In this instance, it was economically, because they targeted SMEs and so on. And they had Her Marketplace. Our colleagues went and they were quite impressed. And we heard the minister there talk about the app, the women's app, that is to be launched. Currently, 3 languages and to be expanded beyond that.
Oh, absolutely, Ade. Not least because there'll be a lot of funding which been coming in. There's ITC involved there as an international organization, because that's really part of the agenda, isn't the global agenda. Women's empowerment, women's rights, and that sort of thing. It's just that in our neck of the woods, as it were, we have certain beliefs, as it were, we have certain norms that are not really helping to move the agenda forward, as it were. If anything, working against it, as it were. So yes, with stuff like that, women who've sort of had the family support to go for it, maybe who've had the confidence, as it were, even to go against what your parents said, you will benefit from this sort of thing. Let me put it this way. When I was at KYT, I had one young woman, she had 8 credits.
Right.
Yes, but she had to stop school because the father said, you've had enough now, it's time to go and get married. That is really where the problem is. Yeah. But when you have the family, the kind of background where you can do this sort of thing, yes, this is really what this program addresses.
Yeah, sure.
Those who've already gained that, your family supported you, or you are a strong, independent, single woman, maybe you've divorced, you want to do things. So for people like that who've escaped the net, this is a sort of program that helps you, isn't it? So there's another battle. That case, the young girl, I couldn't believe it. In fact, one of the lecturers came and said, I can't believe this. Can you talk to the father? I tried to call the father. I couldn't get through. How do we deal with that? 8 credits.
Sure.
Brains wasted in minutes. I hope, you don't want to sound like that, but it seems like it. Then the father said, no, you cannot do that. You have to go and get married. How do we capture that?
This is it.
That's really where the problem is, I feel.
And that's what needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we'll be having these things. It's a laudable initiative, but as you said, there's societal things that need to be tackled for it to make a difference.
A lot of people will benefit.
Sure.
Obviously, given that. But when it comes to scale, really, what I need to tackle, I hope we have a proper program for that. How do you deal with that? But with this,
yes, indeed. And story number 8. World Trade Summit, World Trade Organization Summit took place in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and our colleagues from QTV were there. So were folks from Gambia, Ministry of Trade and trade-related bodies. And they got quite a lovely pat on the back. Why? I won't spoil it for you. Have a look, have a listen.
Member states expressed high regard for the Gambia's leadership as LDC coordinator at WTO MC14 in Yaoundé, thanks to the country's unwavering commitment to ensuring that the collective voice of LDCs is effectively represented in shaping global trade outcomes. From convening coordination meetings to leading bilateral negotiations on behalf of the 41 member states within the LDC group, the Gambia has displayed an admirable sense of responsibility and leadership, which continues to cement the country's profile on the global stage.
Advantage of the platform provided and showcase the Gambia potential in the area of investment opportunities, but more so the plant industrial park that we are trying to develop at the middle of the Gambia, and that is in LRR. It's very significant because it is massive, and we are putting a lot of components.
We negotiate, we engage on their behalf on a diversity of issues that we are looking to get outcomes, whether it is in agriculture, whether it is in fisheries, whether it is in IFDAs, or whether it is in trade facilitation, whether it is on digital trade. The Gambia coordinates on behalf of all these least developing countries.
So Gambia coordinating on behalf of least developed countries. There was a reason why I put 2 quite distinct ones. One was about our coordination, and there were 41 member states, by the way, at this event in Yaoundé in Cameroon. So Gambia was given the role of coordinating, and to the extent where negotiations ended up going 2 days beyond what had been planned because of the kind of contention and so on. But also the reason I brought the bit in with the minister is that many times our ministers go to these things, they will address the thing just on the theme. But what he did was he tried to sell the Gambia as an investment destination, and I always applaud things like that. Take the opportunity, you've got 41 or 40 other states, yourself being 41, sell your country to them as an investment destination. And he certainly took, when he went, there's a separate story we did where he took the platform to do exactly that.
Absolutely. And perhaps more broadly, what better way to do it than to perform your role very well.
Indeed.
I even read that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The UK, Saudi Arabia, they all commended the Gambia for what they did.
Sure.
And it's very interesting that they mentioned something called the LDC package.
Yes, yes.
As it were,
Least Developed Countries
Least
package.
Developed Countries package.
Yes.
And what is this? They really want to address the structural limitations, as it were, really. They've limited LDC contribution to world exports just 1%. How do we change that, as it were? So we've been sort of very instrumental, as it were, in bringing people together and to support certain instruments, as it were, that would address the trade sort of imbalances, you know, things that have held us back when it comes to trade. Sure. So, absolutely, who am I to question these, you know, people, their judgments? They've experienced, you know, the Brits, the Saudis, everybody, they experience it. This is what they've said. So we have to accept it and move on. They performed well.
Yeah, well done, Gambia. Thank you for that. Our penultimate story, we come back home, and MDI, Management Development Institute, has now transitioned into the Civil Service University. What's that all about? Have a look and have a listen to this.
For over 45 years, MDI has served as a key national institution since its establishment, providing training, research and consultancy services to the public, private and non-governmental sectors. Now elevated to a university status, the Civil Service University CSU is set to offer degree programs across various civil service disciplines, marking a significant step towards more advanced and specialized higher education for public servants.
We are going to invest more in technology so that our programs can be delivered on distance learning to our diplomats and aspiring professionals outside the country can enroll.
This is a point of emphasis that no country can achieve sustainable development without a competent and accountable public service.
Of course, you know me, I deliberately had that last one in there. You can't achieve development without a competent and accountable public service. Almost goes without saying. Almost every country that has achieved any kind of success, it's not just what the politicians do. Politicians come and go. If you have a kind of vibrant democracy, regimes and governments come and go. Political parties come and go, but your public service and all that they embody have to be there. They have to be competent, and this is what we're kind of driving towards, Mr. Borge, isn't it?
Absolutely, Eddie.
Yeah.
And when I heard him say that, I said yes. But again, when I look in my history, I can have a reasonably competent civil service without necessarily having a civil service university.
Well, indeed.
Our First Republic, everybody talks about it.
Right.
Earlier on, we were talking about, you know, people coming here to learn about civil service, how do you do it? The sub-region, they were doing that.
That's right.
So that tells you it takes much more than a university, just that. So can anybody say that that's the wrong thing, we shouldn't do that? Nobody will ever say that. Yes, fine, you have a civil service university, we'll have it. But we all know that it takes much more than that, really, for us to have the kind of civil service that we want, competent, selfless.
Yeah, indeed. True, true.
What has been the criticism of African public sector workers post-independence, you know? All that nationalism, what happened? It collapsed into kleptocracy. That is really a major impediment, hindrance to our development. Once we go in there, we just turn it into our own personal fiefdom. How do we migrate from that? We hope that the university can help.
We hope it can help, but it can't be the silver bullet. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And that takes us on to our final story before the producer comes and drags us off our seats. Our former Interior Minister, Osman Sonko, is on trial. He was on trial. He was convicted, given a 20-year sentence for crimes against humanity, and he appealed that sentence. And that appeal is now going through at a Swiss court in a place called Bellinzona in Switzerland. Have a look and have a listen.
What do you make of the decision of the court?
Firstly for myself and also on behalf of every other victim, it is very significant and we are very happy that the court has recognized the crimes and responsibility and role Osman Sonko had played as one Interior Minister, one as IGP, and another part where he was the head of the state guards. You cannot just oversee the torture of the people and you just say I'm not responsible. So the fact that the judge has very clearly stated that he was held responsible for these actions, even though he had said he was not physically there, is very significant to the Gambian people. It's made us happy as victims to see that this has happened and to hear the strong words. And I would just generally say we are really pleased.
The appeal proceedings began this week in the Swiss city of Bellinzona, where Sonko is challenging his 2024 conviction for crimes against humanity. The Swiss Federal Criminal Court had previously found Sonko guilty of offences including homicide, torture and unlawful detention committed between the year 2000 and 2016, and he was therefore sentenced to 20 years in prison. This case is considered historic, as Sonko is the highest-ranking former official ever tried in Europe under the principle of universal jurisdiction. This allows countries like Switzerland to prosecute serious crimes even if they were committed elsewhere. And so the clips there and the two people you saw speaking, the first was Solo Sanding's daughter, welcoming the conviction. And then later on we hear that he has now appealed this conviction, and that's where we find ourselves. No surprise that he's appealed. After all, 20-year sentence is quite a stiff one. And he challenged it on all sorts of reasons, saying, including that Switzerland didn't have a law to prosecute this sort of thing at the time of the alleged, and then the court kicked it out, saying, human rights violations, they don't depend on individual countries' legal statutes.
It has been established now. Yeah. So it seems to me a defense is sort of groping in the dark.
Well, really.
Whatever they can clutch, as it were, the drowning person clutching at straws. So that's it. So let them.
Yeah.
Let them. What is there to say about Sonko and whatever? Really.
Yes.
For some people, the pain is still raw.
Indeed, indeed.
And something profoundly evil happened here over 20 years.
Sure.
So this is it, as it were. Yes. The arc of history,
it bends.
Bending towards justice.
Absolutely. This is what we're seeing.
At least we hope.
At least we hope. At least we hope.
We hope.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboja. And that brings us right to the very full stop before they shut off our mics. So thank you very much for your interjections. And of course, I have to say to you, the viewer, thank you for being with us and staying with us. And till we come your way again next week. Goodbye.